Routine is an attempt to create order and gain control over the uncontrollable, ceaseless force acting indiscriminately to loosen and unwind and decompose and eventually erase the structures of us from existence. Change. On a related note, routine maintenance is a bit elusive to me. As a denier and avoider of change, I'm a big fan of routine. But the maintenance part always seems like an interruption to a routine. It's something you do instead of doing the thing you're building a routine around. Maintenance is cleaning and treating the pool instead of swimming, or pulling weeds and tilling the soil instead of gardening. Today, instead of riding, I'm spending a nice evening cleaning, adjusting, and replacing some parts on my bike. I've learned to accept this as necessary to the goal of riding thousands of relatively trouble-free miles per year, but I still see it as a disruption rather than a routine in and of itself. Throughout my childhood, whenever something was freshly cleaned or repaired, I remember my dad saying, "It's nice and new and it's going to stay that way from now on." It's a comforting thought that things could stay the same and any effort you put into something would be reflected back indefinitely. How rewarding to know that each step toward improvement meant that mess and malfunction would eventually become things of the past. How empowering to only have to endure change when we decided it was time. But I think the intended lesson was that keeping things nice required continuous effort, either in frequent short bursts or arduous and disruptive catch-up sessions. And often the worst messes are the ones that we've left for ourselves. Routine masks change. In particular, routine can make incremental changes almost completely unnoticeable. Making frequent enough observations over a short enough duration, it can seem like things may go on the way they are forever. This is why things like weight loss or gain seem insignificant on a daily basis, but can be quite profound when viewed year to year. Astronomers of the past observed the unchanging position of the stars and proclaimed the immutability of the heavens, in contrast to earthly matters which were well known to change frequently. We now know that our observations of the universe span only the most minute fraction of time, and it seems nothing is exempt from the laws of entropy. Change inevitably comes, perceptibly or imperceptibly. Neglect only results in a debt to time, and the interest is paid in annoyance and frustration. In cycling terms, neglecting to replace a chain means it will stretch and cause uneven wear on the drivetrain or fail completely, leaving you to walk and coast home. And when you finally get a new chain, you may find that it refuses to fit into the worn teeth and you'll have to replace the chain rings and cassette gears as well. Neglected brakes will grind down the rim surface or provide less than adequate stopping power when it's needed most. A dirty bike may be hiding cracks or other corrosion that prematurely ends the life of a frame and could potentially end yours. And old cables will fray and snap, leaving you with one gear to finish the ride. So then instead of a $20 chain and $15 brake pads, you might be looking at hundreds of dollars for new chain rings, cassettes, and wheels. And as I've mentioned previously, letting that $5 shift cable go until it snaps will instantly increase the difficulty of your ride as you are forced to finish using only the hardest gear. I've experienced each of these scenarios over the years, so now I keep track of the mileage of each consumable and set a day before spring to clean and install fresh parts. It still feels like a disruption, as I'd rather have spent this evening riding, but I'm learning to see it as an investment in the next 100 rides, which will hopefully be smoother as a result. And if nothing else, it'll offer some perspective as I examine the effects the previous year's routine have had on both my bike and myself. It's uncomfortable to pull back the mask of routine and truly see how much has changed while we were in it. This is especially painful when the comfort of neglect fools us into thinking things aren't changing. But facing reality is necessary. Tires only wear thinner to the point where they'll no longer hold air. Metals fatigue and corrode, and the precise geometry of the machine will eventually weaken and malfunction so that it can no longer efficiently transfer power to the ground, and it will become useless. So too will my own body succumb to the restless agitation and discomfort of being, and with all things resigned to sediment beneath the deluge of time to be forgotten. And no matter how lasting and unchanging the day-to-day doings may seem, it's all steadily coming undone. I used to believe that the way to get better was simply doing the same thing over and over. Instead, it seems adaptation is key. Purposeful and informed effort is the only way we might mitigate change and gain some sense of control over coming misfortunes. It's our only means to reject the conclusion that nothing ever gets better. And it's nice to know that the inevitability of change does not mean that we are helpless victims of it, but that we can anticipate and adapt to it. So for now at least, with a bit of effort, these things can be strengthened and restored and raised once again as a sail in the turbulence to steer through the chaos. And for now, at least, it's pretty nice and almost new, and it's gonna stay that way as long as I can help it.